I modified a weed whacker today because the parts for the weed whacker itself are in a box, in a box, in a box. So what happened was I couldn't use the weed whacker the way I wanted to as a weed whacker, so I took it apart, the head of the weed whacker, and I took the part where there's normally a string head on the head of the weed whacker itself here. There's normally a string there. What I did was I took a 7 1/4 inch skill saw blade, and I put it on the head of the weed whacker itself. I'm pretty sure you should be able to see this. Yeah, you can see this. So I just did this because I couldn't find the parts for the string. It works really good. You can actually cut down a 2-inch tree in relatively short work. So it's on a Ryobi weed whacker T2500, and I lost the air filter too. It fell apart. So I have a pink rag. I just put a pink rag over it to keep the dust out. And I'm gonna start it up now. It's a little dangerous, this thing, I'll tell you that. So let me get it started, and then we'll go from there. I'll show you how it works. Works good. Actually, it actually works like a mulching unit as well. And I got the idle working. The idle was not working at all. The idle was not working. I shut it off so you could hear me. I had to take the carburetor apart. I haven't used this in about, well, the last time I used it, I lived in America in 2013. So I'll show you the front of it again while it's off. Yeah, baby. A little ingenuity, some tools to modify the tools, a little bit of old skill saw blade. It's not very sharp. You could probably use it for rough cutting timber, but it's a 24 tooth, 7 1/4 inch blade, and it works real good. One thing I'll tell you about these tools is on the bottom, if it's a good tool, somewhere over here, okay, somewhere over here, in the head, right here, in the head of this unit, it has a place for 90 weight oil here. So you have to, there's a Phillips head screwdriver. Take this off, and you just drop about, well, you fill it up with oil. Don't worry about putting too much oil in there. That's the only lubrication spot that there is. And I need to adjust the strap. It's a little bit long. Well, it's made for a different type of cutting. And that's it, man. It was a success. Another successful job. But I did need quite a few tools to modify this head of the unit. I had to make a collet, a C-O-L-L-E-T. I would imagine that you could buy a collet for it, but I made one out of an old bushing. It was the inside race, R-A-C-E, the inside race of a ball bearing, a 1.5 inch ball bearing, and it fit the spindle, but it didn't have a design on it that would lock up the blade. So I grinded down the collet to fit a diamond-shaped blade, and it feels like I got it perfect because it's got to be centered. The collet is going to center itself on the shaft, on the drive shaft, but I had to take a file and file a diamond shape on the outside of the collet, and kept putting this over it, and I would take like 5 strokes with the file on one side, and then 5 on the other, and then 5 on the other, 5 on the other. And you need a man vise, a good man vise to hold it. I guess you could do it with a child's vise, but I have a man vise that I like to use when I do man type work, and this is manly stuff. I'll tell you that. This bad boy will cut down a 2-inch tree, or cut a 2-inch tree limb off of a tree. And in fact, I would imagine if you made it several passes, you could cut down, almost any diameter tree you wanted over a period of time. So right now I'm going to look to see if I have any commenters. And I remember buying this. I bought it in Tavernier Tools at mile marker, I think it was like 91, Tavernier Tools. And I bought it in the year 2000 or 2001, so that makes it 19 years old, this thing. And it took 5 pulls to start up because the plug I cleaned, but the plug is not a new plug, it's an old plug, very old. So, but the rubber, this is what usually goes bad on these rubber handles. They usually get brittle and hard, but this rubber is still good, and the rubber on the handle itself is still in good condition. The fuel doesn't leak out, and the oil, when I was holding the head of it up, the oil didn't come out of the head, so the seal where you put the 90 weight oil in, the seal is still sealed, even from 2013, when that was the last time I used it. So the seal didn't dry up. That's an important thing. As far as the air filter is concerned, I just took a rag, a soft piece of cotton cloth. The air filter crumbled up underneath. There was an old cloth, cotton type membrane filter. And I just took a piece of pink from an old shirt I had laying around, and I put that on. It's got two tabs over here. It locks on here like that, and then this goes into the, it's a thumb screw. So that's it, man. That was pretty cool. Yeah, baby. Yeah, baby. Modified weed whacker, 6 foot long handle. This was the long handle. They had one that was about 4 feet, but I don't like being so close to it. You can see how well it works, and where you take the blade off in the back here, there's a hole to lock this gear up. So I think I'll look at the comments and see if anybody's there. I made this one go live. I felt spunky today. All right, I don't see any comments. Maybe I didn't push the live button. Well, such is life. Let's see. Yeah, I'm pretty much done. It took about 4 hours to make that collet. Huh. I'll take a look. I'm going to bring this inside and see if it's on and see if I'm getting comments. I'm not real sure. If you have any questions, I'll... Oh, one thing, I don't know if I could turn the screen into the opposite direction. I'm not sure about that. This is a tablet. I don't use it much. Typically, I only use it when I'm doing live streams, and typically I face it towards me. I was just watching a really cool video about atomic bombs. I'll let you guys see it. Ah, there he is, Patrick Barker. I see that, Patrick Barker. And I see G. Boone. Thank you, G. Boone. Yeah, I'm pretty careful. And from 6 feet away, I have my glasses and my hat on, so in case it kicks up a rock, I'll be good to go. But I was just watching this video about atomic nations. Damn, the whole thing is over in a few 10 thousandths of a second. 1946 atomic bomb fireball high-speed photography. That's the name of the video. What a cool video. It gives you in black and white, tells you how long in 100th of a second, in a few billionths of a second, the nuclear detonation part exploded. Within 100th of a second, the explosion is over, and now just the energy is coming out. And it gives you step by step. I gotta tell you, the people that make this stuff, a lot of technology went into this. It shows you the plane that they dropped it with. Then they have hundreds of shoot. Now this bomb drop was in April of 1946. This is the first atomic bomb in a series of 23 atomic and hydrogen, and I think a thermonuclear bomb as well. And these all took place in the Bikini Atoll in the Marshall Islands. And the name of this bomb drop. This is the first one after the war. Is the name of the operation is Operation Gilda. And you can look that up. If you Google Operation Gilda, Operation Crossroads, you'll see all the details for, you'll see Operation Gilda, the first one, and then I think Operation Bravo was the second one. It was so big that they didn't expect it, so they said they didn't expect it to be that big. And in the harbor here, let's see if I can find you one with the harbor. In the harbor, no, that's not it. There were 78 ships. Yeah, here it is. There were 78 ships around the central part of. This is the actual footage from drone planes that they flew over it, and there were 78 battleships, one aircraft carrier, battleships, PT boats, and destroyers. And they didn't expect the bomb to be so big. And in Operation Bravo, the next one, it sunk all 78 ships by accident. They said that they miscalculated on the amount of fuel that they put in the bomb. So this one was Operation Gilda. The next one was Operation Bravo. That was the biggest one, Operation Bravo, and that was a mistake, so they said. But it goes through it step by step, you know, fraction of a second, fraction of a second, fraction. And it went up, I don't know, 7 miles, the cloud went up. Shit's amazing, the stuff they spend money on. I gotta tell you, the amount of money that they waste. I mean, there were thousands of people, hundreds and hundreds of planes. And the planes that went through this cloud after they made the explosion itself, there was an Army drone. They were drones, but the planes that went through the cloud when it was at this stage, and then the plane, here's a drone, this is a drone. And even at a later stage, they had to throw the planes out. They had to bury them. And then they put in the planes, they put live animals. I don't know what they are. I can't see. And and then here's how it worked. Operation Drone Carrier Drone Air Unit. Well, that's, gotta tell you, man, I just love watching these old movies because they're pretty interesting. Now let's see if anybody made any comments. Nope. Christmas tree farm. Okay, so they have them. Yeah, I've seen something similar, but the Ryobi weed whacker that I modified, it probably, you could buy the parts to do that. I may even have the parts somewhere, but I wasn't able to find them. I have a box with just, like, you know, some miscellaneous chainsaw parts and stuff, but I couldn't find the parts, so I just made a new one. That's not that, it wasn't rocket science, it's just a piece of metal. The thing I was worried about was getting it centered, but apparently there's absolutely no wobble on the head of the blade on the weed whacker. And this video shows you the inside of the planes and the instruments that they use. A strange effect was produced upon the iconoscope. Yeah, I would imagine. And this is where they made the men stand on the outside of the ship to watch the flash and to breathe in all the dust, and the big experiment using live guinea pigs. That's what I call it. And then these are all the different support vessels. There was like tens of thousands of people to do the support. What a waste of money. And they've built 2,500 bombs, and the rest, America has dropped and detonated 2,500, and all the rest of the world has combined another 2,500 that they admit to. And let's see what happens over here. I think But all of these ships that you see in the picture, they all got destroyed in Operation Bravo. Oops. We destroyed all the battleships and the aircraft carriers. They are a trip. All right, so, we dropped it. All right, Boone, G. Boone, if you're still there, I'm gonna end this right now. I'm gonna see where we are here. Give you one. Oh, that's the nice one. They tell you how much energy is in the blast, and with what the millions of degrees in the blast, and this is a really cool video. A lot of information. Operation Gilda, Operation Crossroads. So if somebody's still there, I'm going to say goodbye. Patrick, thanks for stopping by. Patrick Barker worked with tools. I used to use something like that at the Christmas tree farm. That you work your ass off for a couple of weeks during Christmas season, cutting down Christmas trees. And years ago, you had to wrap them with ropes. Now they have those sleeve bags that you put, the tree just goes into a sleeve bag. But I remember buying those trees and they were wrapped with hemp twine. I wonder which part you did. Be safe, G. Boone. I'm Bing Permy. And we're going to say goodbye to anybody that's watching this. I'll leave this up. Oh, imagine that. 6 people are watching. It's 3 o'clock in the morning, guys. All right, thanks for watching. This is Michael Fazio having more fun in the Philippines, modifying, creating, changing stuff around. So a lot of people out there in YouTube land, you hear stories about that. That's nothing to do during the lockdown. There's plenty of stuff to do during the lockdown. It just depends on what tools you have available to do. Keep yourself busy. I mean, even if you have a sewing machine, you could sew stuff. You know, I mean, if you don't have a sewing machine, get a drill. You could make a table, chairs for outside of your house. You can make your own chairs. It's not that hard. Go get a couple of sheets of plywood, and a paintbrush, and some thinners, and some turpentine, and some oil-based paint, or varnish and stain, and you could do stuff all day, as long as you have the tools to keep yourself busy. You need tools. I got to tell you, without any exaggeration, my dad used to tinker around. He called it tinkering. He was 75 years old just before he died. He died when he was 75. He would be in the basement tinkering on something. Whenever something broke, we used to put it on the work table downstairs. And whenever one of us didn't have something to do, we'd go downstairs and take it apart and fix it if we could, or go and get parts. Like on this list here, I have parts that I need for something else, another project. I can't see without my glasses, but I have a list of stuff to do on the, and so that's my next project. Well, that's one of the projects that I need. So at any given time, I have several different projects going. But if you have a little area that you could, like a hobby area, just a hobby area, even if you do modeling, you can go buy a plastic model and, you know, do modeling. Modeling is not so easy. My dad used to he'd buy a model for like $100. This is back in the 70s. And he used to give them away. But if you went into a modeling shop, like an ancient Spanish galleon with 3 masts, he would literally tie all the knots for all the rigging in real, actual knots that you would see in real rigging of a real tall ship. And he would literally, like if it was a bowling knot where the pins went, he'd wrap the thread around the pins, the dowel pins where you pull the pins and it is the rope. All the knots were the correct knots for the ship. And then all the little men he painted them with fine brushes. They would be worth, even back then, thousands of dollars, and he would just give them away to somebody. Somebody would come in the house and say, well, that's a really nice. They would never expect somebody to give it to them, and he'd just give them the model, and he'd go get another one and start another one. Sometimes he'd have 2 or 3 of them going at the same time. He was a good modeler, my dad. I never built much of a model. I used to build the real thing in school. We built real airplanes, real wing bays, real little airplanes, stuff that really flew. Not when I say little airplanes, I'm talking like 12, 14 foot, 20 foot experimental aircraft. But Dad used to love models, and that's what he did in the wintertime when they weren't work. When he came home from work, he'd just spend an hour a day. Some of the models took 2 or 3 years to do. He was pretty good like that. And they were big. Some of them were like 38, 40 inches long, and at least that high with the mast, and they had to stand and paint the name on them. He was pretty cool like that. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say goodbye. Let me see what we got going here. Yep, that's it. Let's see, any more comments? No more comments. Okay, this is Michael Fazio. I'm Pink Permy from Michael Fazio in the Philippines, watching. I love these atomic bomb videos. I just love the shit out of them. I love to watch the technology that they used. I like the equipment. I mean, they didn't have well, one of the reasons I like this is because a friend of mine, Norm Tolson, he literally worked with Oppenheimer at Los Alamos. And he might have even been in the Marshall Islands, because Norm Tolson was the photographer for the test bombs that they dropped in Nevada before they dropped the Hiroshima bombs. And Norm Tolson was the liaison from Oppenheimer to the president and the generals and chiefs of staff. But more than that, Norm Tolson helped develop this high-speed photography. So whenever I watch this stuff, I wonder if Norm was on the site. And if he wasn't, I know darn well his technical advances in high-speed photography were. They didn't have a camera that would take 10,000 frames a second. So they took 100 cameras and they mounted them to a long steel beam, and they were synced with one another. So let's just say they took 10 cameras that took 100 pictures per second, and they synced them up in between one another, which brought it to 1,000 frames per second out of those 10 cameras at 100 frames a second. And that was high-speed photography in the 1940s. And that's the truth, baby. You heard it from me. You heard it here first. Nothing but the truth, 24/7, 7 days a week. And remember, next week, we have a special guest, Sunday. We're going to bring what we did yesterday. Is the little fella had a great time on the show. The little fella from the bottom of the flat earth. He had a great time on the show. But he also wanted more. Yeah? Okay. He wanted to go to school. He's in school this week. I put him in school. And he's going to come back and talk about what it's like living on the bottom of the flat earth, and he's going to talk about how certain things get done on the bottom of the flat earth. But I could take him out of school just for a minute. I'll take him out of school. I had to keep him. I had the same problem. I took the chains off him when I sent him to school this morning, and what happened was that they weren't paying attention to the little fella for a few minutes, and the chains were off. And soon as the teacher went to go clean the erasers in the erasers room to knock the dust off the erasers, soon as the teacher went to the eraser room to knock the chalk dust off the erasers. The little fella was already digging. Ran outside, ran down the steps, and was digging holes in the schoolyard, and where they play football, and made a mess of the football field. I'll tell you that. So now I had to put him. I was called into the school, and I was reprimanded for taking the chains off. I said the teacher wanted the chains off the little fella, and they said, well, from now on, if you want to send the little fella to school, you could do that, but you got to keep the chains on. And what about the spoon? And I said, nah, he's not going to learn anything. If he doesn't have the spoon in his hand, he's not going to pay attention. The spoon is like a pacifier. We can take the bottle out if you really want, but the chains remain, and the spoon stays. And as long as he has the spoon and the chains on, he'll learn. He wants to learn. He has a nervous habit of digging holes and then sometimes he's in the hole and he can't get out of the hole that he's in. It's not my fault. It's the nature of the little fella to dig holes so deep that he has trouble getting out of. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So let's say goodbye to the little fella. Bye-bye, little fella. Oh, and did you guys see the little fella's anti-gravity boots? Whee! I'll show them to you again. He talks one time. That's the little fella's anti-gravity boots, baby. And the name of this little fella is Baby Alive. Baby Alive. And he has a name. His name is Digger One. Digger One. Digger One. Digger One, baby. Baby, we dig you. Digging you, baby. Digger One. More fun in the Philippines, baby.